Abba read, chapter by chapter, verse by verse.
All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome again as we prepare ourselves to go through our afternoon study. And someone had their hand raised. Is that brother? Okay, exactly, brother Charles. We are going through the book of Deuteronomy now on our journey to Torah. And, I remember, starting out, when, Rick, Jadiel, and myself and others, look to just teach the word, and the way we viewed things and how we wanted to make sure that we taught only what the Father wanted us to teach, that we sought to be unified in our understanding and in the way that we study, and the way that we opened it up for discussion, and that can be a real point of frustration at times. It could be a real point of vulnerability. But when you're seeking truth, it's something that is necessary, because not only are we facilitating a walk through scripture, but we're also listening attentively to the words that you guys say and what you bring to the table and the views that you have that we might not be thinking about, and how we often come to an understanding of something collectively. It's beautiful in the way that we have decided Father wants us to go through his word. And starting in Genesis, and now, 4 years later, 3.5 years later, we're in the book of Deuteronomy. And the journey we've come through, with the things that we've seen and how we've watched the scriptures open up to us and open our understanding. I'm in awe, on a regular basis as I look back and I think about, where my mind was before making Torah my center, and understanding the anatomy of the scripture. Now, all things are based here. Even now, as we're going through the Gospels, and Jadiel does his Q&A, everything starts here, where we are. But we've come through in the last several weeks, last couple months, to the first 4 chapters. Last time we were together 2 weeks ago, we went through what I call the words. These are the words, the commandments. And we looked at questions that were asked of Messiah and how he pointed back to the 2: love, worship, honor the Father, love your brother, love your neighbor, love your fellow man. And how we looked at the first portion of these the last time we were together, and we saw how they all pointed upwards, how they all were related to how we look to the Father, the worship, his conditions. And now we at the end of the lesson, we started talking about the mother and the father, and having the opportunity to honor them, to bear their burden. We saw how we connected that to what Messiah was saying in Matthew chapter 5. Mark chapter 7, where he was chastising the Pharisees, and he brought up the word Corban, and he said, you are shucking the responsibility of bearing the burdens of your parents by saying Corban, which was releasing them in a man-made law from the responsibility of taking care of their parents. They were violating what was in Torah, and we talked about that extensively. So we understand now we're switching to the love your neighbor, and everything in regards to the instructions in the next several verses have to do with just that. But more so, I want to make sure that we understand the foundation of all of his instructions are based on the direction of our heart. And we've been talking about it a lot in the last several weeks, because it's important that if we don't grasp it, these words, these instructions just become a task list. And we want to escape that understanding. We want to move to the point where our heart is bent towards the Father, and his heart is bent towards us, and we are guided by his word. So just wanted to kind of give that as a form of not only recap, but also our point of focus. Because if we look outside of the heart for his instructions, we miss the point. And that's what Messiah was doing in the Gospels. So praise Yah. So we're looking to read through some of these. I believe we left off, we stopped in verse 16, so we're picking up in verse 17. So I would like to have a reader go from verse 17 to through verse 22. And for the newcomers, the way we do it is we have someone read. The person that reads has the first opportunity to share what's being revealed to them, what they see, a question. And then we go ahead and we discuss verse by verse. So there's no stone unturned in not only reading, but understanding and putting these into practice as well. So who would like to read first? Verse 17 through verse 22. We're going to stop at verse 23. Sister Lydia.
Okay, Deuteronomy 5, verse 17. You do not murder. You do not commit adultery. You do not steal. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor do you desire your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. These words Yahuwah spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness, with a loud voice, and he added no more. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. What I see in this is that other than we're not supposed to commit these acts, we're not even supposed to think of them. Like it said in the New Testament, if you even covet after or lust after your neighbor's wife, you're already committing adultery. But he even points out here, just by thinking of this, you're also committing the sins. So we shouldn't even premeditate any of these actions.
Absolutely, well said. And it's important, you know, to get to the heart of the matter, right? We've been talking about that a lot. And that simply means the core understanding, the base of the belief. You know, we're going to talk about the passage you just shared with Yahushua explaining adultery, because it also ties into the very core of even the commandments. And we're going to talk about that in full detail. But I want to go to the hands, and I want to hear from other people what they see in the first several verses that we just read. Sister Chantel.
Shalom, guys. I just wanted to ask, based on the fact that Yahuwah made these commandments, as in the first and the most important, right? Is it safe to say that they were breaking these commandments like on a daily basis? Like it probably was like second nature for them at that time? And why out of all the other commandments, y'all had to choose these 10 to put in place first?
All right, I want to understand your question. Can you restate it?
Sorry, yes. These commandments was given and Moses went up to the mountain, right? I think back in Exodus, right? And
Yeah.
these were the first 10 commandments that Yahweh gave. Time to come, I get to understand that he gave more than 10, but these are the first 10. So I'm just saying, like, if out of all 613 commandments that he had overall, he gave him the first 10, is it safe to say that his people were breaking those first 10 commandments like on a daily basis? Like it was like second nature to them at that time, why he had to hurriedly and put those 10 commandments in place at first?
Well, I mean, not necessarily that they were breaking them, because the commandments, all of Yah's instructions are based upon his holiness. They're all a picture of who he is. You mentioned 600 and so law, statutes, and commandments, but the first 10, all of those entailed. Every one of those had something to do with the words, the 10 words. So, Yahuwah is giving them the stipulations of his covenant, of his marriage to them. It's often spoke of a marriage ceremony, a marriage commitment, the marriage of Yahuwah in Israel. And these were the stipulations. These were the parameters for them to abide in him. This is the picture of what being holy is. This is the picture of Yahuwah's holiness. So to love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, and mind, to love your neighbor as yourself, all of the commandments are entailed in those, and this was his requirement to be in him. So, immediately after he gives the commandments, there's also a full understanding of the sacrificial system. We know that blood and bulls and goats was never taking away of sin, but only the blood of Messiah. So, Brother Jadiel, you want to add to that?
No, I see. Sinning is first nature. That's the first nature. What Yah was offering through his commandments was his nature, the divine nature.
Right.
And if you look at Exodus chapter 20, verse 17 down, when the people started to move away from Yah, when he started speaking from the mountain, he said, Moses, I believe, said in verse 17 or 18, he says that Yah has given you these commandments to prove you so you could fear him and sin not. He's not giving it to you because he already knows you got a problem.
Yeah.
So he gave it to you to get you out of the problem. The law is to get you out of the problem, not to simply restrain your cravings. He's like, these laws, you put them in your heart and they will change you. Not, I want you to physically do this because you guys are just crazy. No, Yah is always trying to restore and transform his people. So when he gave the law, he was like, don't be afraid. I'm just trying to get you away from me. I'm not giving you the commandments because you are horrible. You need me because this is your first nature from your father, from Adam. But I'm giving you my commandments to show you a different nature, something else that you can become if you come to me. And that's why you have to come to him. That's why even though they heard the law, Because they ran away from Yah, they could not be transformed the way he wanted to transform because they
Yeah,
ran
that's
away.
true.
But now that we hear the commandments, we go to him so we can become transformed. So those things could be written in our heart. And Moses tried to explain that to them, but the majority could not grasp it. It was too big for them.
Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Absolutely. Great explanation, Brother Jadiel. And we have to make sure that that becomes what we see as well. You know, sin being the second nature. You know, one of the words that Jadiel used was so they would come to him. You know, the very idea of repenting is to make a U-turn. We are headed away from him. So to repent is to return to his holiness, return to his nature. So if we're walking away, we make a U-turn to come back to him. This is what John was preaching. Repent, the kingdom is at hand. You know, return to Torah, return to the straight and right way, return to his nature, return to his holiness, because it's what he requires. You know, anything else is adultery, you know, and that's the first thing he says when we start, you know, the second thing he says when we start today. The first thing he says is, you shall not murder. You shall do no murder. Murder is ratsa. It means to slay. It means premeditated manslaughter. It means even to assassinate. And when you think of assassination, you think of a plan, you know, a well thought out plan, you know, to take someone's life, to dash into pieces.
You can hear it.
All right. So when we look at that commandment, we are to you know, understand that fact. It says in Matthew, and we'll read this right quick. Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 21, it says, you have heard that it is said to those of old, speaking of this, what we're reading now, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raka, meaning you are a fool, meaning you are an empty head, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever says you fool shall be in danger of hellfire. So we see that he is going straight, Messiah is going straight to the heart of the matter. If you look at your brother wrong, if you feel a certain way about your brother wrong, murder has begun to be thought about. Right? He's telling you not even to get your mind in the frame of the picture of murder. Because once you do, anything is possible. If I hate you, there's so many places my hatred, my wickedness towards you can go. You know, even to the point of some of these other things. Because now, if I hate you, if I want to murder you, I can also, you know, do some of these other things that we're going to discuss. So we see how Messiah goes to the heart of the matter of what it means to murder. You first murder someone in your mind if it's a plan. You think it out. You know, that's why there was provision for accidents, for manslaughter that was not purposeful. You know, there were cities of refuge. You know, we're going to read more about that as we go along, as we've covered that in the past. But chapters 19, I think, through 21 of Deuteronomy go into those things in full detail. Every aspect of murder, of killing someone, whether accidentally or on purpose. But we see clearly with what we just read in Messiah, what he said referring to this and the giving of Torah, the heart of the matter, and what spurs it, what starts it. It's always the direction or the condition, I should say, of the heart. Anyone want to add anything to that? Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not slay. Thou shalt not assassinate. Thou shalt not dash into pieces. And when you think of murder, dash into pieces, you think of how bit by bit by bit, the mind goes to get to this place. You're literally dashing that person into pieces in your mind before even committing the act. So these words have application in their meaning in regards to what Yahuwah is saying to us. Matt, Kim.
So I think it's so interesting the whole without cause, like angry at your brother without cause. Like, what does that even look like? Was the question I kept thinking about. But I guess we can just be angry, I guess, without cause.
You can. So I didn't want to get here because it's going to ruin what I wanted to say later. But covet, which is going to be in verse 21, could be the cause of the hate, right? There's no, the person did nothing to you, but you hate them, you dislike them, you're jealous of them, you want what they have. And we're going to see how covet is the center of all that, but we got a ways to get there. But that is part of without cause, you know? You don't like the way somebody looks. You don't like that they sing in the morning and you're grumpy. You know, those little things are the fires that Yahuwah is saying put out. And what Yahushua said in Matthew chapter 5, what we just read, don't even think of the person that way. Don't even look at the person that way. Sister Lydia talked about the true meaning of adultery. Don't even look at a woman that way. Let's go to that now. The next verse, 18, says, you shall not commit adultery, right? This is a betrayal of a commitment, a betrayal of a relationship. Na'of is the Hebrew word, na'of, which in same chapter of Matthew, he does the same thing. This is what Sister Lydia was referring to in this passage. Yahushua says this in verse 27, the same way he spoke about murder beginning in the heart. He says adultery begins in the heart. He says, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. What does that mean? There's a saying that most of the brothers know on here that says the first look is free. The second one is going to cost you. Because when you lust for someone, you're gazing upon them, you're undressing them with your eyes, you're looking at them, you're seeing the shape of them, you're imagining things. That has already happened. You already want this, and you're going to do whatever you have to do to get it. So your eyes have to be protected. You know, who was it? Job says, I want to make a covenant with my eyes to look upon no vile thing. To look upon a woman that's not mine is a sin. You know, it's a trap. And it also ties into the whole covetousness, which we're going to get into in a minute. But this betrayal, this breaking of a commitment, this breaking a betrayal of a relationship was often in the forefront of the mind of the people of Israel. And that's why we have all throughout the Tanakh, you know, what we call the Old Testament, Yahuwah pleading with them not to be an adulterous nation, even calling them an adulterous nation. for chasing after the ways of the heathen, of the other Elohims that they worshipped. Even though they were idols and not real, there was still a distraction. Yah wants our minds specifically, inclusively, without hesitation. Think about the relationship with your wife. Your wife, your husband, your wife doesn't want you thinking about any other woman. She doesn't want you to be thinking about the image of another. Vice versa. Husbands, you don't want, your wife's eyes, your wife's thoughts, your wife's imaginations to be on any other man. That is a violation within itself. And that leads to these other things, the actual physical acts. It starts in the mind and the heart. That's why, men try to get into the minds of women, because they know the first thing they imagine is the way that person talked to them, and how they got in touch with their emotions. And that begins their fall. Men, it's different. Men, for the most part, it's the eyes. It's about what they physically see. Well, what we physically see. That's why it's important, specifically for young boys, not to look at certain things. Between 13 and 18 is when pornography is introduced. We have to be mindful to steer our children away from these things, and to protect them. Once, David saw Bathsheba bathing at the top of on the rooftop, he was done. He saw something, he wanted it. Why do you think that the clothing is the way it is? To entice you. We go to Psalms 1 and we see the progression of sin. You have a desire that is within you, that is enticed, that is awakened, and then you chase after it. When you have a strong desire for something, it's like a drug. Like, you're gonna do whatever you got to do to get it. And that's what Yahuwah is trying to steer us clear from. Don't just not commit it, the physical act. Don't even look at a woman. Don't even look at a man in the way that you would look at your husband or at your wife. These are very important for our understanding in order for us to be able to obey them. There's a certain way that, even communication within the body, within the assembly. Like, there are safeguards. If my wife does a lot of the assembly, administration. When she emails the brothers for specific reasons, I'm copied. And vice versa. They return, I'm copied. I don't want to see no private emails from the brothers, and I'm just using that as an example. But there are safeguards that we're supposed to have in regards to our conduct. If I'm going to have a conversation with another woman in our fellowship, believe me, my wife is sitting right there. Not only being in the conversation at times, but present, so that there's no accusations made on either side. That's wisdom, and that's what we try to make sure that we do. So all of these things, can lead to, if the heart is off, to sin. And that's why Yahuwah says the heart has to be right. Yahushua said the heart of the matter. Disliking your brother for no cause will lead to murder. Looking at a woman in the incorrect way will lead to adultery. So we have to make sure we understand the base of the way that his instructions are formed, so that we can follow them, so that we can understand them. Silver family, Sister Ina or Adelson.
It's me this time, but Adelson is here.
Okay.
I just wanted to go back over again and say thank you also to this assembly, to the safeguards that I see set up, because I've seen this done wrong, right? And I've seen the disasters that come out of it being done wrong. So I just want to harp out to the praise of Yahuwah that this assembly is doing it right. Because when you do it wrong, it sets people up for destruction. You know, I've seen men going out trying to do ministry with women, you know, unmarried men, you know, and that just kind of opens the door for chaos if that man doesn't have any type of strong covering and safeguards and protocols, because you're opening the door and giving place to the devil. And the way people play that off, Brother Rod, I'm sure you know, they be trying to call themselves, oh, well, I'm spiritual. Ooh, okay. There's a difference between being spiritual and being stupid. You know what I mean? Because you opening the door right there. You know, you playing with fire, and that's how you get burned. And so the protocols and the safety are in place to prevent those things from happening. You know, even with, you know, conversations and things within the body, we got to be careful what we're saying, what we're doing, because we can unintentionally sow discord, right? Like all of those things happen because of carelessness and because of not following the protocols. And so, you know, protocols are important. Some people say it's controlling. You know, I've heard that. That's so controlling. But, you know, if you're not going to let Yahuwah control your life, why you here?
Absolutely.
I'm real and I'm raw. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not gonna let him control your life, why are you here? Because that's what he asked for. Give me control. Because that's how we don't fall into wreck and ruin. We have to give Yahuwah the control. So that means you have to trust your eldership and follow the directions. Because I've heard that, you know, not to just harp on and on about it, but there seems to be in some circles, right? And I know you gentlemen know all about it, where there's like no respect. You know I'm going with it. For leadership, like there's no respect. Oh, they just people like I'm people. Well, listen, if you're going to have some kind of community, you got to have some order. So you just can't have people running around doing whatever they want to do. That doesn't work. And so that means you got to have some people in authority and that you got to listen. And that's just the end of it. But I've heard all kinds of stuff. I've heard people teach like that. And I don't want to derail the conversation, but I want to put those things out there so that people are clear, because I know that you hear all kinds of doctrines and people come around and tell you all kinds of things. It's important that we guard our minds with the truth so that we don't fall.
Yeah, and to that point, I think it's also important, you know, and in agreement with what you're saying, but also, you know, in following and being under authority, make sure that that person that you're following is under Yah's authority, you know, because one of the main reasons he uses the relationship with the husband and the wife to represent, you know, the body is because if you get the relationship with the husband and your wife wrong, if you don't, you know, respect and honor and stay faithful to your spouse, you won't stay faithful with Yah, and vice versa. If you're not faithful with Yah, you're not going to be faithful to the relationship. There's no basis for your understanding. There's no basis for the foundation of your heart. And I think both are used, you know, interchangeably to show the truth of the picture of what Yah has created, you know, and they're not to be violated. We're not to violate serving him. We're not to violate loving our wives, our husbands, serving our fellow man. So praise Yah. Thank you. Jim. You there?
Oh, I was talking on mute. My actual microphone was muted. Yeah, hallelujah. I was saying some of these safeguards also prevent, you know, not giving the devil a foothold, you know, and because that's a scripture. And to piggyback off what Dr. E was saying, you know, these commands are for our protection, but also it's by Abba's design. It's what he set up. So it's not so much of, this person is doing thus and so. It's when we look in scripture, we see overseers, we see elders. I mean, it was so important. He specified what type of individual should be an elder, and we see even in Torah, you talk about rules, Kid Shabbat, we have rules, do things decently and in order. Well, if we're modeling ourselves off of Abba Yahuwah, how many commands did we say he has? Like granular, detailed, because he cares. He cares so much about us. He gave us this wonderful guidebook, to guide our lives, to light our path, to know how to walk so that we can see and so yeah, that's all. Shalom.
Absolutely. Praise Yah. I was going to say something, but I lost my train of thought in regards to something you said. But definitely, they're for our protection. And after you said that, something came to my mind. But
foothold, elderships in the Bible.
Oh yeah. So, thank you. So, in regards to leadership, Sister Ina said we follow, the leadership. One of the stipulations of a bishop, of a deacon, is the husband of one wife, and that doesn't just mean he has one wife. It also means a one wife type of man, like, I only have eyes for you. That came from Torah. Your eyes are only for that one woman, right? Not 50. You don't want a man with a wandering eye. To be a leader of a fellowship, it's doomed. I've seen leaders in the past, the type of, arrogance that comes out of them when they think this way, the type of control that comes out of them when they think this way, the ugliness that comes out of them when they think this way. And you can see it from a mile away. And I see those who are overtaken by it that aren't necessarily automatically that way, but they're overtaken by it because they don't understand the realm of evil they are in when they are standing in a particular position for Yah. The attacks to the enemy, the fiery darts that he's going to shoot at you. Excuse me. I know this was when I was in the Christian church, but when I would be speaking, I would see all kinds of things from standing there. Sometimes things that might not have been there, things that could have been in my mind, gestures, movements, all of these things happen. It's ridiculous the amount of evil that is pointed at you as a man of Yah, as a woman of Yah, let alone in the act of doing something for him. So we also have to be mindful of the tricks and the snares and all of the holes that we can fall into and to safeguard ourselves, even amongst our brothers. Watch me. Watch this person when I'm there. Watch the person when I'm in their presence. Always be with me. You understand? These things will protect you from falling in a trap. But you have to decide, woman of Yah, man of Yah, that you are going to give your heart first to him. And then all these things happen, for us to be able to walk uprightly, for us to have a successful relationship with Yah. We want everybody to be successful in walking with Yah, and that's why we're a family. We talk family. We lift family up here. Yeah. Let me go on. Brother Charles. And Job, if you got anything to add to adultery, please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, all right, praise God. I just want to say real quick, add some on the sheet back off for everybody. Yeah, it's funny you bring up guard and the heart, because also it's an aspect of when your heart is hurt in a relationship, or if you're talking to the wrong person. If your heart is hurt, you're vulnerable to everything. Like, you might not intentionally want to do the things that you want. So if you're a man, from a relationship, and this woman's telling you all these good things, or she's supposed to be ahead of something, and she's counseling you, and she can see you vulnerable, she can stir you off of the path, or a man, vice versa. That's what usually happens. Even with your eyes, if your heart is hurt, you'll fall vulnerable to anything. So that's all I want to say. So praise y'all. It's good to have a sheep to guard the flock. Praise y'all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A shepherd, you meant, not a sheep, to guard the flock of sheep, right? But absolutely, so one of the things I like, and I miss having these conversations with Kai and Darius and Jordan, because they love talking about the animals and the different aspects of the animals' behavior. And I think we were talking about how the lions hunt, or even how the wolves hunt. They're in packs, and they're watching the flock, whether it be gazelles, whether it be zebras, whether it be sheep, whatever it is, and they're looking for the weakest one. They're looking for a chink in the armor and the formation, and they shoot and they grab that one. So the same thing happens in the darts, with the darts. When a woman is not guided by Yah, when a man is not guided by Yah, they look for weaknesses in that relationship that they might be looking for, they might see, and they own in on those things. And you said something important about the heart, because if the heart is tired, that one thing that other person isn't doing is the one thing that gets exposed, is the one thing that's offered. You end up leaving that relationship, violating that relationship for that one thing that the other person is not doing, when they're doing all those other things right. And then you end up with a person that is just has a single track mind, and that they have no substance, but you left for that, and that's all you have. So that's the other side of that. We have to be careful to understand that relationships are a process. Marriage is a long haul. There are things that you learn in the beginning that are necessary for those middle years. There are things that happen in those middle years that get you to the point of the golden years. I want to be, old in a rocking chair, sitting beside my wife with our grandchildren playing in the lawn. I want to see that. But there are things that were necessary, in the struggles of our marriage in the beginning, that got us to the point where we are now, will take us to where we're going to be, prayerfully, willing, in the future. And that process, there are things that happen to strengthen you. But if you miss it, if you lose sight, if you get off the path, you will be chasing a snaggletooth bear, thinking that it's satisfying. And I gotta, we gotta make that clear. That's a real thing. And I think Charles brought it out when he said, the heart, if the heart is hurt because the heart is missing something, and the enemy comes in with something that you're missing, but they don't have all the other qualities, you end up with a rugrat or a skeezer or a bum or a buster, whatever you want to, whatever pronoun you want to use, all for the sake of not being whole with Yah. And when we lose sight of Yah, we lose sight of everything else. That's why it's first, love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. When those two are intact, all of these that we're reading make sense. We'll continue to see that as we read through the rest of these today. Silver family, and then Chantel.
Hallelujah. I just wanted to shout out one more thing that you said that made it even more clear to me. Not that I didn't know, but when you talked about the leadership, right? When you talked about a bishop, but I think of the bishopric as a part of any head. I think sometimes Father speaks collectively when he says something. So I think just about any leader would want to have one wife. And I've dealt with a brother in specific who really preached very harshly against that. And I'm not saying we're not speaking terms anymore, but it was just, a lack of respect for my opinion, and not so much my opinion, I shouldn't say that, a lack of respect for what the word says. When I openly challenge that, because I happened to be in the same place when he's like preaching that, and I had to kind of stop it and say, I'm sorry, I cannot agree with that. Even though I'm here, I got to stand for truth, and so I can't come into agreement if you're going to, preach something that's not biblical. And so, of course, it led to a very strong discussion, but that just further shows it out to me, because I didn't even use that scripture. I went in a different direction, because he was really going on about Yahuwah being a polygamist and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, where are you getting that? I was like, where are you getting this? And I know that it comes from confusion and being involved with those groups or camps that teach that doctrine. But he wasn't trying to hear that from a woman. So my prayer when I left was, Father, please send another man that would water what I planted. You know what I mean? Because you can't preach from behind a pulpit and hide your insecurities. If you're a man, then be a man. And the women are going to fall in line. I don't know which leader on here said that. I think it was you, Brother Rod, who said, when you come into alignment with Yah, the women that you're leading, your wife, your household, everything is going to come in alignment. You don't have to run around and like boast yourself and say, I'm the man, I'm the man. That, to me signifies some insecurity. And if
That
you are a
was
man,
Jadiel. I remember when he said it.
it was Jadiel. So it's like, when I see the brothers run around like that, it breaks my heart, because it's like they're struggling through something. And a lot of times what you're pointing to is what I'm pointing to. We want to cover up what's really going on with our heart, rather than facing Yah for what his word said and getting those things cleared out. If it's him first and I adore him, then all the insecurities are rolled away. You know what I mean? And I don't need multiple women to validate my masculinity. Come on. I don't need that, because I have him. But for some men, that's like a go-to. Oh, I got 5 wives. You know what I mean? I got to do this because they reading that in the scripture, but they're misunderstanding. And then you want to run and you want to have an assembly. It's just wild that they're not connecting all the pieces. So I appreciate it when I can learn from another man who shares the same understanding.
Praise Yah, absolutely. I mean, we see that in culture, not just in, culture doesn't necessarily mean, walking with Yah, but we see, leaders be exposed to a certain type of tension that they weren't before. And we see them fall like dominoes, because they are believing the press clippings of the attention that they're getting, and the power of being, on a microphone, the power of being in front of people, and then them abusing that power to their demise. It happens all the time. That's why it's so, you know, it happens so much in the church as well. You know, so we have to be mindful of those things and put safeguard around us so we don't fall into the trap of verse 18, you shall not commit adultery. Sister Chantel.
Yes. I agree with everything that everyone was saying, and this just brought, as in this discussion, just brought back some memories of when I was in the entire Seventh-day
When you were where?
Adventist type of worship, and what I have a lot of stories, but one of the things that I've noticed is that when especially the head of, you could say, the church or the congregation or the assembly really doesn't follow these laws and commandments, it turns everything upside down, and it damages the trust of the congregation members. Because, for example, I've had experiences where I was like, what, 18, 19, went to church. There was church sisters there, just treated me badly. I mean, I was respectful to them because, you know, that's how my mom raised me. But no matter, like, if I asked a question or something, I was always treated a certain way. And I was trying to understand why. And later on, coming to find out the reason why is because some of the deacons there, they had eyes for me. And I didn't even know this. And they're like married men. So I'm coming into the assembly looking to hear the word of JC back then, because I wasn't with Yah back then. I was, you know, and I'm coming in as an innocent lamb, listening to the word, trying to learn the word, and I was being treated harshly for something that I knew nothing about. I didn't even had like conversation with these individuals to a point. And I've even heard like a deacon would come in and they'll be like, hey, I saw Brother Brown last night at Sister Patsy's home and it was 9 p.m. Like what were you guys like ministering about, you know? And instead of them being accountable for that, they just laughed it off. And it was a huge mess when a lot of things broke out in the assembly. And because of that, it actually damaged my trust that I had with that assembly. I was like, I don't want to be associated with this type of liberty. I'm here to learn about the words of God at that time. And I wasn't learning about that. I was learning about people's business, like the abominations that you guys were doing. And I just decided that I wasn't going home. That I just decided that I wasn't going back. And surprisingly, when I stopped going there, most of who came at my home to check to see the reason why I wasn't going back was never the sisters of the assembly. It was always the deacons and stuff like that. And I was explaining to my mom why, and she said, listen, stay at home, stay at home. So because of things like that, I just decided that I wasn't going back, and that damaged my trust ever since then. So coming to this assembly, really knowing Yah, not only knowing Yah, but also seeing how you guys apply the words of Yah in every single thing that you do, that regains my trust. That helped me to actually build confidence to say that, okay, I want to worship with you guys. I want to do fellowship with you guys because I see a lot of respect. Like the way you guys do things, it encourages me that, okay, when I become a wife, this is how I need to act. The way I see Sister June carry herself, the way I see Sister Diane preaches, all of those things. Even like I'm thinking, okay, this is how Brother Rod does things. This is how Brother Jadiel does his scriptures. When I have my son, I need to have them teach them, you know. I need to have like a type of mentor for them. So even though I'm young, like being at this ministry, it's already helping me to set my life in a way that y'all wants me to. But that's all. That's all I had to say. But when they don't really follow just teaching, it really pushes away people and it damages that trust that individual would have want to have with their Elohim at that time and stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, it's you know, there's so many different examples of poor leadership that is strayed completely away from what we're reading. And it's tragic. It's tragic. I mean, I can tell you some horror stories of things that I saw, you know, in so-called ministries. It's like I'm sure most of you can, and that which you just shared is an example of that. But Yahuwah wants us to be men and women of honor. He wants us to be, seeking him, seeking his heart, trying to understand what we talked about earlier, trying to understand his characteristics, knowing that he wants his characteristics to be ours, and anything opposite of that is an enemy, right? So very good, very good. Let's move to the next verse. You shall not steal. You shall not steal. It's amazing how these are all connected. And when we get to covet, I'll show you. But most of you probably already see. But steal is the Hebrew word ganob, and it to carry away, to deceive, to steal you away, to kidnap, or to hurt the side. So there's so many things that steal means. And I remember, coming up in the 80s, a sucker punch was called a steal. You steal somebody, you hurt the side, you catch the person off guard, you steal their ability to know that you are attacking them. Steal means, you can steal someone's reputation, with gossip. You can, steal money by working under the table outside of the parameters of, a check, a paycheck. Maliciously steal someone's joy. We talked earlier about, you just have, this disdain for someone, this disdain for someone's happiness, joy, I should say, is a better word. Someone that wakes up, you're grumpy in the morning, they're not. Why are you smiling all the time? Why are you laughing? These are things that lead to other things. And when we, lose the ability, to look at these and understand that they are committed against your fellow man, against your brother, your sister, we have lost sight of what Yahuwah wants our character to be, of how he wants us. This is opposite of the way that we're supposed to treat everyone. Keep in mind, the things that he's saying don't do are things that we're doing against our brothers and our sisters. And we have to make sure that we understand that. Verse 20, does anyone want to share anything about thou shalt not steal? All right, verse 20, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Shab, false, emptiness, vanity. We know this word very well. Deceitful, worthless, nothingness. False is nothingness, emptiness. Witness is the word ed or aud, and it's evidence, giving false evidence, nothing, vanity, deceitful evidence, deceitful testimony, false witness against a person. That includes gossip, something that's not true about that person. Slander, saying something that person didn't say, right? Or even saying something that person said and twisting it to where it seems deceitful or where it seems bad, making it maliciously untrue, leaving words out, in the court of law. In the court of law, bearing a false witness, going before a judge and saying this person did something under oath when they didn't, or saying this person didn't do something under oath when they did. So All of these things are related to bearing false witness in the confines of the nation, right? And this one is the one I really wanted to get to. It is verse 21. It says, "You shall not covet." Shamad or kamad means to desire, to take pleasure in, attracted, selfish desire. It's the opposite of concern for another person's welfare. Why? Because you're wanting something that they have. Covet your neighbor's wife, right? You're hating your neighbor, you're coveting his wife. That's something that belongs to him, but you want it. House. You shall not desire someone else's house, someone else's field, someone else's servant, someone else's male servant, female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. You know, when you covet something, it's a matter of the heart. And Paul knew this well. You know, that's why he was perplexed by what he said in Romans. He says this in Romans chapter 7, and I'll read. Romans chapter 7, verse 7, it says, "What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Certainly not. On the contrary, I would have not known sin except through the law, through the Torah. For I would not have known covetousness unless the law had said, you shall not covet. But sin, taking opportunity by the commandment, producing in me all manner of evil. For apart from the law, sin is dead. I was alive once without the law, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. And the commandment, which was to bring life, I found to bring death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it killed me. Therefore, the law is holy, and the commandment holy and just and good. What is he saying? He's saying covetousness is a matter of the heart. Like I cannot do some of these things. I can physically not murder someone. I can physically not commit adultery. I can physically not steal. I cannot ever bear witness falsely against my neighbor. But covetousness comes from the heart. Covetousness is where murder begins. Covetousness is where stealing begins. Why else are you stealing it unless you're coveting it, unless you want it, unless you're desiring it? Adultery begins with covetousness. I want that woman's husband. I want that husband's wife. It's where worshiping false Elohims begins, covetousness. You know, we have to make sure that the core of our heart is connected to what Yah wants for us, not what we think is going to be good for us. Because we spend enough time around certain people, you can almost feel inadequate. You can almost feel like, well, why don't I have those things? Or why can't I have a husband like that? Or why can't I have a woman like that? Why can't I have a car? But like that, but you have a car, you have a wife, you have a house, you have a job. You know, all of these things you have, but big eyes you get when you see what other people have, coveting, wanting what they have. And sometimes it's not even that grandiose. It can be something as simple as, why do they deserve that? Right? that can lead you to an understanding. That can lead your mind down the wrong road. Like, what did they do to get that? What did they do to deserve that? Why should they? You know, those are thoughts. And Paul understood that. He understood that he couldn't control those things. And if he had coveted, which he had, he understood that by that fact, he was under the law, meaning he was going to face the condemnation that the law brings when these things are violated. You know, some of these things, you know, adultery was a capital offense. You know, you committed adultery, you were put to death. You know, that doesn't happen no more. I'm not saying that it should, but I'm just saying that brings a different perspective, you know, but it still happened, right? Why? Because it's a matter of the heart. If your heart is not right, it doesn't matter what the law says. It doesn't matter what the law's condemnation is going to be. It's not going to deter you because your heart is not right. So we have to make sure that we understand the heart of the matter. And I'm going to keep saying this as we go through, is the matter of the heart. Praise Yah. Sister Ina.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much. I just made sure I'm doing some prayers about what you're saying because I, take the word serious. And so as we are going through these things, I would encourage everyone, allow the word to search out your heart and to, bring you to a point where Yahweh wants you to be, because, you can think your heart is one way, but the Bible says your heart is deceitfully wicked. And so that's why you have to let Yahuwah.
Who can know it?
Yeah, that's why you have to let Yahuwah show you. So while you were speaking, there's just a reverence that came over me to pray about that, because that sin, like you said, is the root cause of pretty much all sins. This is what happened to Hasatan. He began to covet the throne. People are like, how could he do that? Well, how could we do a lot of the stuff that we do? You know what I mean? Like, don't start judging, because it's easy. You see something that you want and you go after it because that's what you think you should have, or that's what you think you need. And then you find yourself in a big mess because you didn't stop and take the time to acknowledge Yahuwah about what you're doing. And of course, we know Hasatan didn't do that because he felt like he should get the throne. He felt like he can do it better. Even when you're coming around, the biggest thing I see with why ministry heads can't work together, that is that thing, covetousness. My ministry better than your ministry. I'm stronger than you. I know more than you. Like, it's really ridiculous. And I expose it a lot on my channel when I'm speaking, because I'm like, why come leaders can't come together and work together? Like, what is that? What is the root cause of that? Where they got to beat each other down, while they can't come to no agreement, but we all saying we leaders and we love Yah. Something's wrong with that. That's one of the things that stuck out to me with Assembly of Yahuwah. There are a lot of people here that have a lot of different ministry gifts, but I see the togetherness and I see the working together and still being able to acknowledge the eldership. That means the covering over the ministry itself. You don't got to be the big boss to do what you're told with your ministry. You know what I'm saying? Like, where are people at with that? So that to me points volumes to the covetousness issue. Yeah, I said it because you see people, they got ministries, they got different titles and stuff. I'm this and I'm that. And then you can't work with nobody. Man, you can't get along with nobody. That should be an indication something's wrong with you. Because you are the common denominator right there. There should be an ability to work together with other people. If you can't, then there's got to be something wrong. So that's why I'm like sitting here like praying, like, Father, if there's anything going on with me, to let it, you know what I mean? Like, out of precaution. There's nothing wrong with that. Because if you lose that sense of praying and precaution and moving by the Ruach, then you it's like I said, it's a protocol. You can get caught up. And I think that that's a big issue when you walk around and you're oblivious to the fact that it can happen to you. It can happen to you. You're not exempt. And so if you're not prayerful and you're not really walking according to scripture and paying attention, it can happen to you. That's why he gave us the tool of prayer. So I'm so glad that you're bringing it out, because it's definitely something that I've been noticing and that I've been, battling with words. But I want Father to give me more understanding of it, because I don't want that in my heart. You know what I mean? I just don't want that in my heart. It'll lead you to death. It'll lead you to destruction. It's currently destroying assemblies. Come on, we see it. We see people pulling out of assemblies and starting their own and all kinds of nonsense. And I'm looking at like, where that come from? How you just leave from under your eldership and you gonna go start your own? Are you sure Yahoo told you to do that? Like that's dangerous. But you see it all the time. You know what I mean? And people, at the drop of a dime, get into these I call it these covetous battles of nonsense, man. Not just going on and on, but it's important to take these words to heart and search out your heart with it, because the enemy against our soul is real. And that's one of his biggest tools, is the deception of the covetousness, with thinking that you need what somebody else's had. And I'm gonna stop, but I'm gonna say this. Why do people have what they have? A lot of times they're choices. The way he hits me with it is, I know why I don't have certain things. My choices. Like you had a choice. You did that. That's why you don't have that. So be honest. And then after you deal with that part, like I said earlier on the line, deal with, the guilt and the shame. Don't walk around with guilt and shame, because you might have made mistakes. But certain mistakes lead you to certain outcomes. And so you can't look at other people's stuff and be like, why? How did they get that? Their choices. Why they got a big house? They saved their money. It's like, what did you do with yours? You can't squander it and then expect, oh, why Yahoo didn't bless me? First of all, you got to get the money management right. Come on now. He's not trying to do no top surface healing on us. It's the depth of it. Learn how to save your money. Learn how to manage your money. Learn how to, cancel your debts and get your finances right. That's why you don't have it. Oh, he said he's going to bless you. He did, with the common sense and the wisdom to do that right. It's like people look for like this fix it. Yahoo, you just fix it. You just do it. There got to be an inner working in us. I want to be a millionaire, but you got such poor money management. Why would he make you a millionaire? You won't pay your bills. You won't pay your tithes. You won't balance your checkbook. Why would he do that? Does that even make sense? We serve an Elohim of wisdom. And I'm not just going on and on, but people don't stop sometimes to think those things through. And then, the covenant just comes in of why this and why that. Choices. And then be honest about that and move forward. And sometimes you just don't need that. You know what I mean? That may not be for you.
Yeah, and I understand exactly what you're saying. But at the same time, I don't, everything is not about material possession. As a matter of fact, if you're wise, you don't show all your material possessions. You don't show or get things just for show. We saw, who was it? Hezekiah. Was it Hezekiah? When the people came, he showed, the enemies, the greatest things that he thought were the greatest things, and they ended up coming back to steal. It's like, that's not what Yah wanted them to see. He wanted them to show them something different. So I don't want us to get mixed up there, but I do believe that, a lot of people have issue sometimes with the things you might have, but they don't know the journey that you've been on. They don't know that you lived in a tent 5 years ago, that you didn't have a job, that you had been disobedient at one point, that Yah took you to some things and then blessed you with some things. But that's not always material possession. But I think it's easier for us to understand it that way, because those are the things that people covet. Those are the things that people take, but it's much more broader than that. Sometimes it's just as simple as, the way somebody looks, the way that they talk, someone's charisma. Someone has the ability to speak well. Those are the little small dark places that they started. And he's saying, put that fire out before it becomes this, because when it becomes this, it becomes murder, adultery, stealing, bearing false witness, not loving Yahuwah, committing adultery against him, and false gods. So we have to understand that this is the center of all things when it comes to the heart of his instructions. Thank you, Sister Ina. June?
Shalom. I love this discussion about focusing on the heart. The woman right now where the Father had us in a heart search journey on this year. And so I really like this discussion and learning to focus on ourselves and not others. And I was reminded of that phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, when you were speaking earlier. That's kind of where that comes from. And that's when the focus is on other people and not just, well, what would Yah have, me doing? And we can be so focused on others that we miss what's inside our own heart, talking about heart matters. And I wanted to read just two passages of scripture. The first one was in Luke 7:39. And these are well-known passages, but it says, then Yahusha gave the following illustration. Can one blind person lead another? And you were talking about covetousness, and I was also reminded of that phrase, blinded by jealousy or blinded by envy, or in this case, covetousness. And the scripture says, Yahusha says, can one blind person lead another? Won't they both fall into a ditch? Students are not greater than their teacher, but the student who is fully trained will become like his teacher. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye, your brother's eye, when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying, brother, let me help you rid the speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite, first get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your brother's eye. And it does go back to introspection and looking within, because if we were doing that, we would catch the log, but we're so worried about the speck. And then the second passage of scripture was found in Romans, because we were talking about, coveting physical things, but you were saying it could be more than that. And I was thinking even about the gifts in the body, because there's a diversity of gifts by design from the Father. And Paul speaks directly to this when he says, this is in Romans 12, just as our persons have many body parts, and each part has a special function. So it is in the body of Yahusha. We are many parts with one body, and we all belong to each other. So it continues in saying, in Abba's grace, he's given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So if Yah has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out of the faith he's given you. If it's serving others, serve them well. If it's teaching, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it's giving, give generously. If Yah has given you leadership ability, take the responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others or showing mercy, do it gladly. And, and you've brought this point out many times, that we all have a certain function in the body. And so, if we focus on what am I supposed to be doing? What's my part and role? And can I do it well? Instead of worrying about what other roles, another role that Yah has gifted someone else, it kind of helps us stay in alignment with that commandment to, not have the covetousness, because we're just more not worried. I guess worried is not the right word choice here, but we're focused on us rather than others. And we want to be plugged into the body, so to speak, to help do our part in helping the body move, because each part is needed. Like you always say, the eye, the knee, the kneecap, the toe, the big toe, but that's it. I'm getting that look.
Praise God. Praise God.
Hallelujah. Shalom.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that Charles is laughing, one of the things that is important about what you said is the covetousness when it comes to gifts. There are instances where you can clearly see that someone is trying to emulate someone else or something else. And it just comes off either weird or just off-putting. But you can tell that the person is not. Here's a good way to explain it. So you have, a family the family of doctors, right? So they want everybody in the, husband and wife are doctors. He's a heart surgeon, she's a pediatrician. So they want all of their children, their 6 children, to be doctors of some kind. But the child is only doing it because the parent wants them to do it. They really don't have a desire to do it. They struggle in certain areas of naturally wanting that profession. And it clearly shows. It shows in the way they do the work, the way they feel about their work. Well, the same thing can occur when it comes to the gifts, because a lot of times people want the gifts that have you up front and out in the open. But, these are not gifts to be taken lightly, the responsibility of teaching the word, teaching it correctly, is very vital and important to the detriment, not only to you, but to the people that you're teaching. Someone that just wants to teach doesn't care about that. They just want to be seen, or someone wants to sing, or someone wants to, be a servant, whatever the case may be. But they're not seeking Yah for what he has for them. There's diversity not only in the gifts, there's diversity in the same gift. Like, you can have 4 teachers that teach completely different, but they're all important, not only for the building of the kingdom, but to the specific needs of the people in the kingdom. Some people gravitate to different things, different types, different styles, and it's important to make sure that you are walking in the gift that Yah has given you, and not trying to walk in somebody else's shoes, because they don't fit. So that's very important what you did share. But we're coming up on it. I wanted to finish this chapter out. Very important what we're about to read. I'll go ahead and read for brevity of time and explain on the way through. And then the next time we come together, we can get into Deuteronomy chapter 6. I know you've all been waiting for that chapter as well. But we pick up in verse 23. It says this, it says, so it was when you heard the voice in the midst of the darkness. Now imagine that, because a lot of times we look at this and we see, that they were afraid. Jadiel talked earlier about them being afraid of the voice. And, I often think about a baby. We visited Joyful Songs, Brit and Stefan last week. And I was holding Yona, and he wasn't completely up yet. He's waking up. And like the different sounds that he would hear would cause him to jar a little bit. And I was thinking, were the children, when they heard Yah's voice, the people, when they heard his voice, did they have that same reaction? Like, what would you do if you heard a voice come out of the sky? Like you might freak out, specifically if it never happened before. But he says, so it was when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, that you came near me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And you said, surely Yahuwah our Elohim has shown us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice in the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that Elohim speaks with man, yet he still lives. Now, therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us if we hear the voice of Yahuwah our Elohim anymore. Then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living Elohim, speaking from the midst of the fire, as we have lived? And they're saying this and not understanding how fortunate they are of the people that could hear from the living Elohim. You go near and hear all that Yahuwah our Elohim may say, and then tell us that Yahuwah our Elohim says to you, and we will hear and do it. So this is where we were talking about earlier. They wanted Moshe to be the mediator between them, the people, and Yahuwah. Verse 28, then Yahuwah heard the voice of your words, Moshe talking to the people, when you spoke to me, and Yahuwah said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken to you. They are right in all that they have spoken. Right? They're right in all that they have spoken. Right? Oh, that they had such a heart in them that they would fear me and always keep my commands. The heart. The heart. Yah wants our hearts. Oh, that they had such a heart in them that they would fear me and always keep all my commandments. Always keep some of my commandments. Always keep a few. Oh, that they would have such a heart, or they had such a heart in them that they would fear me and keep all my commandments, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. That's the reason, that it might be well with us and our children forever. Go and say to them, return to your tents. But as for you, stand here by me, and I will speak to you all the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, which you shall teach them, that they may observe them in the land which I am giving them to possess. Verse 32, For therefore you shall be careful to do as Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left hand. This is, don't lose focus. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right. You shall walk in all the ways which Yahuwah your Elohim has commanded you. Don't get off track. Don't look to the left or the right. These are the ways. Don't look what they're doing over there in Babylon. Don't look over there in with the Amorites. Walk with me. You shall walk in all the ways which Yahuwah your Elohim has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. Praise Yah. So I believe that is self-explanatory. We can see the foundation and the reason that Yah is doing these things for his people and for us. So praise Yah. This concludes our study for the day, Deuteronomy chapter 5. And next time we'll get into Deuteronomy chapter 6. So read ahead so we can have a full discussion. Praise Yah, family. Great study, and Shabbat Shalom.
Praise Yah. Shabbat Shalom.
Toda Robah, praise Abba Yah, from whom all baraka flow. We hope this video encouraged you today. Don't forget to study to show yourself approved and be like the Bereans who tested everything, according to 2 Timothy 3:15 and Acts 17:11. We assemble every Shabbat and during the week with like-minded believers all over the world, virtually, and sometimes we gather in person for feast days. We have something for the whole family, including children. Discover more on our website at assemblyofyahuwah.com, where you can apply to join, give the biblical assembly needs, and find many biblical resources to help you grow in your walk with Yah. To know when we publish new videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Jeremiah 33:3 tells us, call to Yahuwah and he will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Much shalom.